Harihi Om, this is Bryce Dubbers. Today, we're talking about wrist pain part 3. Now, if you've got pain the base of your thumb in the palm of your hand, this is for you. If you type away on a keyboard, if you're a rock climber, if you're a chef, if you garden a lot, and your grip is starting to feel painful, this is for you. Now, what has happened is most likely the palm of your hand, your grip, your hand flexion has become too strong too quickly. And like anywhere in the body, when the muscle becomes too strong too fast, it starts pulling the bones out of alignment. And that can set you up for things like carpal tunnel. Some people are going to have pain showing up inside the hand. Some people are going to have pain showing up at the back of the hand if it's in another type of extreme. What we're going to do is a combination of two things. First is self-massage in the palm of the hand to really break down all that thick, dense muscle fibers where you've become too strong, too fast, get some fresh blood flow in there so all those tissues can heal. And the other thing, number two, is we're strengthening the hand extensors, which is the opposite movement. Like I've talked about before, in yoga and in Ayurveda, we have a common phrase, like increases like, the opposite creates balance. So if you're already doing lots of this movement, using the wrist flexors, the palm flexors, it's the extension that's going to take you in the opposite direction, that's going to start to balance out those tissues and bring those bones back into alignment. All right, ready? Here we go. Ah! All right, my dear yogi, to really address all this deep knotted up tension that's accumulating in this part of the hand, I'm going to start off with self-massage. Get yourself one of these fancy schmancy, very expensive bouncy balls. They cost pennies on a dollar. I ordered mine on Amazon in huge bulk orders, but we used to be able to buy these from candy machines when I was a kid. Sometimes party stores have them, but I'd recommend ordering them online. You're going to fall in love with it, and you're going to lose it, and you're going to want to give them away to your friends because they feel amazing. These are fantastic for massaging your hands, your wrists, your forearms, your feet, certain smaller parts of the body. Now, of course, best for a massage, somebody else. But somebody else is not always available and expensive. Second best for a massage is your own hands, but your other hand will get tired and it will get tight as a result of massaging your messed up hand, your hurt hand. And your hurt hand is probably going to require more than your strong hand is even able to deliver. So, third best option is a ball. It's portable, it's light, easy to travel with, and it never gets tired. So, start off. Put your ball on a floor or on the block if you want a little bit more elevation. Legs wherever is comfortable. You can cross them, you can open them out, whatever you want. Now, as you're massaging, mostly through the base of the thumb, a little bit on the outside of the little finger, it's through this area that you're going to find the most density. You want to look for density, for thickness, not necessarily where it hurts the most, but where the flesh feels the most thick, the most compact, because that is the place where the fascia has gotten so knotted up that it's constricting the muscle fibers and it's preventing those muscle fibers from stretching and opening and being the elastic, supple tissues that they're designed to be. So you want to look for the density, you want to look for the buried treasure. Now, as you massage the hand, you want to pry the hand open as much as you possibly can and use your other hand as leverage to really lean in and to dig in. I like to do more forward and back at the base of the thumb, but also side to side can be good. You can also do diagonals, circles. You just start digging in and noticing where you feel the most density. And it's a good idea to do both hands, even if your other hand doesn't hurt, just so that it doesn't get jealous. Because honestly, it's a matter of time until the other side just might start screaming at you. It might also feel kind of crunchy. You just start digging around, start searching around, notice where you feel that buried treasure. Now, the thing is, it's going to be quite intense as you really lean in and you dig in, but you find a threshold, you find a line in the sand where you stay on the side of discomfort, but you don't go into pain. And if you don't know the difference, well, one rule of thumb to explore is that whenever it's uncomfortable, it doesn't necessarily feel good. It's intense, not necessarily pleasurable, but as soon as you let go, alegría, it feels better than when you started. That's discomfort, and that is often extremely necessary for breakthrough, for healing, whether that's physical healing, emotional healing, spiritual healing. Often discomfort is part of the process. Now, if it's pain, it feels terrible while you do it, and it feels terrible even when you stop. It actually feels worse than when you started. That's pain. Don't go there. And if you don't know the difference, well, my friends, sometimes it's better to go too deep and have to back off and rest for a few days than to not go deep at all. And that's the same in many different areas of life and relationships. Sometimes the only way to know what the right amount of pressure is to experience what too much is and also not enough. Sometimes the only way to find the exact right amount, sometimes the only way to find what enough is to experience the extremes, because then you have wisdom, you have an educated experience that you can then rely on moving forward to educate yourself in the moment where you find just the right amount. Now, different people will give you certain seconds or minutes that are required for the fascia to soften. Some people say 90 seconds, some people say 60 seconds, some people say 120. I've heard it all. Main thing is you find an amount of pressure that's painless but uncomfortable, and you keep moving until the tissues warm up and soften and relax a little bit. And then you move on to the next spot. Now, if you find a spot that is so intense it takes your breath away, like, and you just lean in and you breathe into that particular spot. And as you hold and sustain that pressure, the intensity will gradually fade and you can start bringing movement back in. Movement is going to create friction, which creates heat, which softens those connective tissues. Gets all that blood flow in there so it can heal. So, massage is the first step. Ready for step 2? All right, dear yogi, when it comes to part 2, strengthening extension, get yourself another very expensive, very hard to find item. Start with a hair tie. You wrap it around your finger. You can also use a rubber band. Wrap it around your fingertips, right around the fingernails. You do reps, prying your hand open. And just see how many you can do. You can go fast, you can go slow, but the thing to go for is to keep it even. There might be a tendency for just your thumb to do something, or just like 1 or 2 of your fingers. That's showing you where you're too strong. Try and go as even as possible and build up your reps. You're going to feel this part of your hand start to work. You know, this is a really, with this kind of a tool, this is about high rep, low impact. You can get thicker types of rubber bands like the kind around asparagus or broccoli, and that's going to be a little bit more intense. They even make another device, especially for rock climbers, that wrap around each fingertip, and they all come down to a center, and they make different weights, different intensities. That is by far the strongest. But stronger is not always better, more intense is not always better. Start with something light and start developing the movement. And as the movement gets familiar, gradually increase the intensity, start researching and finding other tools. But the movement you're really exploring is this opening of your hands. If you've got a lot of pain through the base of these palms anywhere, it's most likely because you're losing your ability to extend. Why? Because we grip stuff all day long. We don't really do this as a functional way to accomplish anything. You don't make coffee like this. You don't type away on your keyboard or your iPhone like this. This is a movement we never really do unless there's a reason for it. And right now the reason is that there's pain through the base of the hand. So along with this type of extension that you can do, even putting the hand flat on a surface, notice your ability to really lift all the fingers evenly. And notice if one or two of them are a little bit more sloppy. And all of that is showing you where there's weakness, where there's relational weakness, where you're setting up an imbalance, where you've been setting up an imbalance. If you can be curious as to why your body's hurting the way that it's hurting, then you can really overcome a lot of guilt or shame or judgment for the way your body is. And if you can invite a place of curiosity, then that's also going to facilitate a lot of compassion, which is very much required for the healing process. Self-hate, punishment, judgment for even having pain, that's going to get us absolutely nowhere but more suffering. The advanced yoga, the most advanced yoga you can ever do, is to be kind to yourself and to cultivate that self-compassion. Curiosity is simply a tool of innocence, which is helping us remember that primordial place that existed long before we even knew how to judge ourselves, long before we even had a language to judge ourselves. So, play around. Once you can find this movement with a bungee cord, with a rubber band, you can start to find this movement in prayer or on a tabletop. Then start integrating it onto your arm balances by lifting all the fingers. You can keep the palms down, you can keep the index fingers down, but then play with lifting the tips of the fingers, but maintaining contact with the base of the knuckles and the base of the palms. And just notice what happens. Practice, enjoy, Harihi Om.